Hi everybody, happy Tuesday. Dr. Kaylee here, owner and founder of the Hope Doctors Pelvic Floor Physical Therapy. I'm here to chat with you about why you pee when you cough, laugh, sneeze, jump, run, lift, whatever it is, right? And what that is and why it's happening. First and foremost, I want to chat about the fact that that is called stress urinary incontinence. There are several different types of incontinence out there. There's urge, there's mixed, there's situational behavioral, there's all kinds. And stress urinary incontinence is the number one reason people seek out pelvic floor therapy because it's the most common pelvic floor dysfunction. It's one of the most common reasons people have bladder struggles. One of the things that I find that is just a consistent thing that comes up. Now, that does not mean it's normal. It is very common because of just lack of awareness and lack of access to pelvic floor therapy or a misunderstanding of why it's happening. Because again, the old school thought, general thought is that, oh, I'm leaking urine, I need to do a bunch of Kegels. You all know that that's not my vibe. So we're gonna discontinue that and we're gonna talk about a little bit more specifics, things that can contribute to pelvic floor leakage or like bladder leakage, okay? So what is, stress urinary incontinence? Stress urinary incontinence, also known as SUI, I'll probably say SUI moving forward in this video because they are like one and the same. It's just the acronym of it. What it is it's actually leakage. The bladder can't hold the leakage or the urine that is inside the bladder when you are adding intra-abdominal pressure into the mix. So what that means is when you have more pressure in the core, when you're lifting, when you're jumping, when you're running, when you're coughing, sneezing, laughing, the bladder is unable to hold the urine inside. There's one thing that I like to explain to people because it really helps to understand the whole function of the bladder. So you have your bladder. There is pressure that can be measured inside of your bladder. So like the urine on the inside, it's in the bladder, right? You have factors, intra-abdominal pressure, other types of pressure, things on the outside when you cough, laugh, sneeze, jump, run, those kinds of things that push on the bladder. You have your urethra, right? Like this is my bladder. So you've got the pressure on the inside, you've got the pressure on the outside. As a practitioner, it's important that we understand that the urine or the pressure on the inside of the bladder and at the urethra needs to be higher than the pressure on the outside. If the pressure on the outside is higher than the pressure on the inside, it will squeeze and make you leak. That's the easiest way to explain it. And so what we do as pelvic floor therapists, is it an issue with pressure on the outside, most common, or is it an issue with the pressure on the inside and the closing of the urethra? There are several things. There is urethral hypermobility and other types of things that I could go into, but just for general understanding, I'm gonna just discuss those two things with the pressure. So if it's a problem where your bladder on the inside cannot increase pressure, that's something where we may have to get a urodynamic study. Sorry, I had to think about that. Urodynamic study in order to understand how that bladder function is actually happening. Is it filling all the way? Is it holding? What's going on with the pressure in there? Is the urethra at the bottom of the bladder, is it closing off like it should? Those are involuntary things that pelvic floor therapy won't always be able to make a huge change with. Where we come into play and where we have significant improvement with symptoms is understanding when you laugh, cough, sneeze, jump, run, lift, if you are having leakage in those things. If we zone out, we look at the whole body with that functional movement, is the pressure, the intra-abdominal pressure, is that all going to the pelvic floor? Or is that going in different areas of your body as it should? Because your body should be able to work as a system. For example, if you are, only leaking when you're jumping rope, I'm looking at how you jump rope. I give you a jump rope in the office. I watch you do it. Or if we're virtual, I tell you to get a jump rope. I'm watching it because I'm looking at how your feet land. I'm looking at your knees. I'm looking at your hips. I'm looking at your back and your mid back and how you're posturing yourself here. I'm looking at your shoulders. I'm looking at your grip and how your arms are swinging a jump rope. The reason I'm looking at all of that If you do not have good ankle mobility, good landing mechanics, you land funny on your feet, your knees knock, if you have a lot of like lumbar curving, if you're holding tension here, I can almost guarantee that if we work on finding ways to improve those pieces, that the pelvic floor will no longer be the path of least resistance. Because if you're landing with poor mechanics, or if you have a lot of tension in the upper spine with jumping rope, the pressure that's going to go through the core and the abdominal wall, it has to go somewhere. And so it's going to find the path of least resistance, which is going to be the pelvic floor. And the pelvic floor is the path of least resistance, not because it's super weak, but because it doesn't have external genitalia to block it, and because it has to have a buoyant or kind of like a trampoline function. And a lot of us do not train it that way. We do tons of Kegels, or we're told to do tons of Kegels, or we sit on this chair and we let it do it for us. Don't get me started on this chair. But we forget the buoyancy. We forget that fluctuating length and contract coordination. That is so important when it comes to having stress urinary incontinence. So that is one thing we've got to figure out, like, where is this coming from? Where are the issues in the system that are not combining to the bladder function, to the pelvic floor function, that is probably contributing to the issue in the first place? So keep that in mind. So as a pelvic floor therapist, we're going to zone out. We have to look from head to toe. What are the contributing factors? What parts of the system are not functioning well? We work on those. We work on landing mechanics. We go through a lot of breath strategies. So if you are laughing, for example, and you have leakage, the pressure going down, we talk about laughing. We talk about rib cage mobility. We're going to talk about hip mobility, so that when you laugh, because it's part of life, we want you to laugh. I want you to jump. I want you to run. And I want you to do all of this leak free. I want your pants to always be dry. But when we do those things, we have to train your body to know where to send that pressure. That doesn't always mean that we lay on our back and do Kegels. It's so much more than that. We are going to be doing rotational work. We are going to be doing hip mobility. We're going to be doing really quick movements, plyometric, sometimes some jumping, sometimes coughing while you're in a position, sometimes laughing when we're in a position. We're going to be playing with all of this so that we can train your pelvic floor to do what it needs to do, and the rest of your body to send the pressure. It is imperative that it makes sense. That is not always pelvic floor focus. Stress urinary incontinence is really important that we pay attention to that. We also want to clear and understand that there is no constipation. If you're having bowel dysfunction, constipation, it's going to put pressure on the bladder. So therefore, you're going to have this constant pressure somewhere from the bowels that is always going to push. And then you're going to lose pressure on the inside because you won't be able to tolerate it, right? Because it's going to just continue to push and push. So we want to make sure that we're doing that. Same with posture. We want to look from head to toe. Is there something that is constantly adding pressure to the bladder? Is there something that is contributing to the issue that we can work with in the physical therapy realm? We also want to talk about hydration. Always common. My clients want to stop drinking water in order to improve leakage, when a lot of times the leakage might be occurring because of dehydration and bladder habits. And we want to see if we can increase hydration and improve the connection or communication and the wiring of the brain and the spinal cord to the bladder. We want to make sure that those things are working properly. And so we also do a lot of that, the behavioral modifications. But it's important that you understand it's a zoned out thing. Stress urinary incontinence, it happens to 1 in 3 women. It's very common. Definitely not something you have to deal with, though, because I tell people it might be common, not normal. It's not something you have to live with. Like, let's find a way to make it to where your pants are dry. Let's do the activities we want to do without having the leakage, because it's frustrating. So I hope that makes sense. Please put your comments below. I highly, highly recommend booking a virtual session if you're experiencing SUI and you are not in St. Petersburg, Florida. Book a session. Let's chat this out. Let me give you some tips and tricks. A lot of times it's just a few things to bring awareness to that we can work on. But when you bring awareness to those things, it can really be a game changer. So I hope to see some of you on my schedule. If you are local to St. Petersburg, hop over to the website, fill out our free quiz. We'll contact you. It'll be wonderful. But would love to see you on the schedule, because this is, again, it's been changing the game for so many clients, the way that we treat, and you deserve it. You deserve to live a leak-free life. And so I hope to see you soon. Have a fantastic rest of your day.